What's going on, everyone? American in Leeds, the American in Leeds YouTube channel, also on Spotify and on Twitter at American in Leeds. You can follow me over there. Please like the video. It kicks the algorithm on to other people that are Leeds United fans that can discover the channel, the banter, the chat, which is what I enjoy. That's why I'm in this. I've specifically, you can monetize your channel after 1,000 subscribers, and I've specifically chosen not to monetize it because that's not what I'm about. You can notice you don't get any ads in any of my videos because I've chosen specifically not to monetize the channel. So anyways, I want to talk about Farke's comments on Norwich, the forest model that people are throwing out there, that it's not all it's cracked up to be, basically buy a lot of players, and why the title means so much. So let's go ahead and get stuck in right away. This was Farke's comments in his press conference about Norwich and reflecting on going down with them in his time. Some interesting words from our gaffer.
Yes, I know we like to speak about lessons learned, but if I'm honest, it was not a lesson learned in Norwich. It was like, yes, I know.
We like to speak about lessons learned, but if I'm honest, there were none. If I'm hearing him correctly.
No, we like to speak about lessons learned, but if I'm honest, it was not a lesson learned in Norwich. It was like fully expected because we went up with a bunch of young lads that we have signed from the second, third tier, out of contract. We had many players from the own academy, and the team was not equipped for the Premier League.
Now let's look at some recency bias. Norwich have not done anything, well, I hate to say that, but relatively speaking, since Daniel Farke left. So if you ask the average Norwich fan right now, would you have Daniel Farke back? They would bite your hand off. But if you ask Norwich fans when they were in the middle of this scrap, did they believe in Daniel Farke? They would say no, right? So hindsight's always 50-50. And let's add that to this context. So he wasn't adapting, but they also didn't back him. So go ahead.
They were actually not equipped to win the championship title, but we were able to do this with a little miracle. But we did this and went up. And then we had discussions more or less with our owners, and they said, yeah, listen, Daniel, of course we can buy proper center back and a proper striker and spend some money. But even if we do so, we have never, ever a team who's ready for the Premier League. And we would need a miracle anyway. So our decision is we don't want to spend money. We want to use, of course, the finances from the Premier League to pay for the sins in the past, to pay money back to the banks.
The sins of the past, one of his key phrases, was used quite a bit in transfer window number 1 last summer window.
To extend the training ground, to invest in the training ground, to invest in the academy, to invest in the stadium, and to extend also some contracts of our young players to create some values, knowing that we would need a miracle to stay in this Premier League, and it's pretty likely 99% we will go down. So okay, that's the reality. It's more like, then please sign a cheaper coach, because at this time anyhow I had some proper offers, so from the top flight, not just in England but also in the Bundesliga. But they asked me, no, you have to stay because you have this reputation right now. There's just one manager who can help us also to accept, to also the outside world, supporters, journalists, the press, to accept that we will probably get relegated and try to create a miracle.
So this is to me airing dirty laundry that should not be aired, when he says that, okay, then let me go and I have offers somewhere else. And they said no, and then he said, okay, well, I guess I'll stay. You don't need to be doing this. Like, you're getting Leeds. You're up with Leeds right now. You're up with Leeds. Who cares what happened in Norwich? But he goes into kind of like this, and he's defending his ego or something, which, again, all managers, top managers, have a massive ego that will barely fit through the door if you're at the top of this level.
And if someone is there and creates a miracle, then it's probably you anyhow, because you've done this even on championship level. And for me, it was clear it's no chance that it works. But I got the feeling I owe this club a lot, because they signed me as a very young manager. First,
now this is true. Daniel Farke, I think, was hired with us at 46, so he might be 48 now. So he's under 50. And so he might have been just 40 when he signed with Norwich, maybe. Some of you might know.
Non-British manager in the history. I came from the lower tier in Germany, and of course, many people advised me, no, it's more like if you go down, it's with your reputation anyhow, and you have the chance in the top flight to go to the Bundesliga, for example. Do this right now, but I can't change the human being that I am. So I had the responsibility for the players, I had the responsibility for the club, and I wanted to give something back, knowing that we would go down anyhow. But yeah, if someone is perhaps capable to help this club more or less to create a miracle, it was me. And if I'm honest, after 29 game days, we were on 23 points. Was never enough, but it was not bad. It was better than all the clubs, for example, during this season have done with spending lots of money. We've spent whatever.
He's going to launch into a COVID theory, which is interesting to me, because it was his results of what he explains about COVID are the exact opposite of what happened under Bielsa. But let's go. Let's hear it.
8 million euros. And there was still a chance. Sadly, then there was Corona, the lockdown.
Corona. I got a laugh out of that. Go ahead.
And after that, we had to play without any supporters. And believe me, without emotions, without supporters, then the quality shined through. I think we've lost the last 9 games, and we had no chance at all. But it was nearly a miracle that with this group of players, I love these players, and don't want to be too critical, that we had more than 20 points. And for that, it was not lessons learned. I was aware what we would need in the Premier League. It was another proof that I was right anyhow, because it was, for me, under these circumstances, is relegation more or less confirmed, because we have started. It was just like, okay, do I pay something back? Do I overtake the responsibility and make sure that the club doesn't crumble and falls apart, but is still stable, although it would go down? And I decided not to be selfish and not to just think about my reputation.
Okay. You decided not to be selfish. My eyes are rolling a little bit here. Come on.
About my career, I wanted to give something back, and that's why I opted also to stay. And for that, then it's more like, we relegated, and this, but it was not lesson learned. It was more or less what I expected. It was more or less like what is necessary to finish on the top flight, at least a mid-table. And we're also not too far away from Europe. This was more or less what I also learned a bit in Gladbach.
There's just times where Daniel Farke seems to be like defending his job, like he's interviewing for it, like we're the 49ers. Like, you have the job. You've gotten us promoted. We're not this over kind of compensation discussion about what happened at Norwich, I think, is interesting, but at the same time, to talk about how you're kind of charitable by staying there. This is just interesting to me. Number one, that's point number one. Number two is this whole idea that COVID-19 or Corona, as he describes it, hurt them, which was so interesting to me, because with Bielsa, like, that's the best season we've had, right? You would say there are no fans. There was no pressure really on the players in when things started to go, and things weren't perfect that season, but I don't know. I guess there was certainly the players were fresher. The fans away from the ground, for whatever reason, it helped us, right? We got promoted when there was no fans, and then we got of course, we had the 9th place finish when there was no fans. And what Bielsa did with that team, in retrospect, we've all looked at the squad build during those 2 seasons. He turned water into wine, and unfortunately, the wine turned to vinegar. I don't think that was his fault in retrospect. It was the ownership and the front office and the board's fault. We don't have to rehash all that. My interest in this Farke analysis is that he wasn't backed, right? And this is news because it's actually coming from an actual source, unlike the Daily Mail. And but he didn't adapt either. And so that's point number 1. So we don't know what's going to happen there. He will have to evolve with Leeds United and what's going to happen. Now, when we left the Premier League 2 years ago, the top 17 have incredibly strengthened. I've just watched a lot of Premier League highlights. For example, I just watched a Fulham match in which Emil Smith-Rowe came off the bench, tied the game, and then it was against Southampton, I believe. Emil Smith-Rowe is coming off the bench for Fulham. Emil Smith-Rowe used to be a England a fully fledged England international player, and he's coming off the bench at Fulham. That is kind of the levels they're pushing for, right? Europe. And so I'm also been watching Liverpool. I watched Liverpool today really smack down Tottenham. The whole idea, and I watched another press conference about this, but the whole idea of possession-based football and England's narratives being changed. When I watch Liverpool, they are so direct and they are so good at second balls. They'll play out from the back, but not really. They want to break lines, and their midfield wins so many matchups. And then they're also very sound defensively. They're kind of they turn the ball over because it's high risk, high reward football. And Tottenham are unable to make them pay. And that might just be Tottenham just out of form right now. I don't know what's going on really with Tottenham, but this possession-based Ange, Pochettino, and then you could even throw Pep Guardiola system could make a case that it's going the way of the dodo bird, at least in England. Now, Liverpool do have weaknesses in this style, and I think that's why they've lost all the high-level cup games, and then, of course, they got bounced out of the Champions League by PSG. You do have to be clinical with them, but I think the league is going to adjust back to what Liverpool is doing, and I actually think possession-based football again will have a place, and it'll be interesting to see how Pep evolves as well. We've also had a lower points tally in England's top flight, and I think this is due because the bottom 3 are pretty much nailed on from after week 5. So this allows the Brentfords, the Bournemouths, the Brightons, the Crystal Palaces, I mean, you could just go on and on and on, to continue to A, recruit with confidence, and B, liberty and freedom to go for results. So they're not in this pressure cooker of relegation because it's pretty much already nailed on, as I said. So you have teams like Man U and Tottenham and others just easily getting going for it because there's no pressure. You're not going to go get relegated, right? It's known you don't have to get relegated. You can do whatever you need to do because the bottom 3 aren't going to get any more points. It's becoming a closed shop, quite honestly. It is. Now, if there's ever a team that will challenge this narrative, it, of course, I think, based on other people's opinions, because of money, size of club, things like this, Leeds United might be able to do it. But, man, do we have to do some fantastic recruiting. I'm not going to get too deep into that. We could go player for player, but I think there'll be time to do that. Time to do that later. The last thing is a lot of narrative happens around. A lot of people have been saying, well, are Leeds going to do what Forest did and just buy everybody, buy 400 million pounds of transfers? And I think they've had 3 years. Here's the objection to that. I would argue that Forest really didn't kick on until Nuno. When they were buying all these players under Cooper, they were in a relegation scrap with us and probably should have gone down. Unfortunately, we had Jesse Marsh's incompetence and then the incompetence of the board, who wanted to do it cheap with Scoobs, and they just wanted to do everything on the cheap until the last 4 games of the Raz decided he was going to lose a lot of money, so he gave Allardyce $1 million for 4 games. Wasn't that the rumor? $250,000 for 4 games, for $250,000 a game. Ridiculous, but that's Raz. That was the incompetence of Rad Razzani, and I don't see so much for Victor Orta, but definitely Raz and I don't have any love lost with Angus. So I don't necessarily say, hey, we need to break PSR. We do need to spend. I think we do need to spend upwards of, because of the prices have increased and everything, upwards of 150. People are saying 100, 150. I would even say pay me even 200 million. But basically what you do with that round number is you buy 1 or 2 big money name players, specifically in a number 10 position. I would probably look at a 50 million pound transfer. Who's going to be the number 10? And then I would sprinkle the rest of it into 15 to 20 million pound transfers on places that you want to strengthen, probably like a center back, probably a striker area, and quite honestly, fullbacks. But I don't want to go too deep into that because I don't want people to think that I'm slighting current squad members. The final thing I'll say today is that it's important for Leeds United to get a trophy. It's important for Daniel Farke to win the league. And I think most of us are content with going up. But how we go up matters in terms of how many links of chain Daniel Farke has on his leash. I hate to be kind of like that visualization, but but it matters, because if he goes up second with a team that should have gone up first, and he's stuck by the keeper by the way that he did, the 49ers have the right to question Daniel Farke. Now, this is where the truth in that terrible rag of paper known as the Daily Mail had truth, because they didn't really say anything in that article, but they really didn't say anything bad either. Now, also the other thing that was hilarious, people said, well, why don't the 49ers just come out and say it's true that they backed Daniel Farke? They didn't do that because they don't want to give air or validation to the story. The story didn't say anything. It didn't say anything novel. Again, I went into this. Daniel Farke, of course, is being evaluated. If I were to pick up the phone, the Daily Mail, and I'm Parag Marathe, I'm saying, congratulations, you figured out that we evaluate our manager? It's true, we're evaluating him. Every game is evaluated. Like, you want Edward Armour, I don't know what kind of journalistic awards they have, but like, you want an award for that? I don't think there is anything novel in that discussion. Now, Daniel Farke is under evaluation. I would probably think that. And the managerial change could happen, but I think it only happens if we get second place. I am going to be rooting for Leeds to win a title. I'm going to be rooting for Daniel Farke to win the Premier League, or do well in the Premier League. I was going to win, but win in the Premier League and adapt. because I don't know how he's going to set up. If he sets up to play out of the back, possession-based football, the way we currently are set up, it's going to be a quick realization. And the other thing that we need to get when we do look at these players is clinicality. That's what I've noticed when you watch Premier League football. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's winning second balls, passing, just winning every moment. There's a clinical nature. And then in front of goal, it's just a massive how ruthless the Prem is. They're just, you got 2 shots and you take them. You know, the whole, we can't be wasteful in front of net. And that is something that we have been under Bielsa, Marsh, and now Daniel Farke. It's going to be, you're going to have 1 or 2 chances and you better bury them. So I would definitely invest when we do start to unpack this strategy. I would invest heavily in a 10 and a 9 that are clinical, that have clinicality in front of them. They convert when they get in front of goal. That's it. That's my time. Alex Simon. Smash the like. Up the whites. Big game tomorrow night. We can do it. Bye-bye. And cheers.